Hi everyone. Okay, so I did previously a video concerning routing. A basic idea of what routing is and explaining a little bit on how routing works. But I forgot to mention the differences between a switch and a router. So I wanted to explain that in a little bit more detail today. So this video is to explain a little bit about the switch and the router, and maybe of course the hub. So I'll start off first with probably the hub, because the hub is one of the older technologies. For those of you who don't know, a hub, switch and router is used in the networking world to interconnect computers together, to make them intercommunicate, to send data from one computer to the next. Requires that device. Actually, it doesn't require it all the time, but I'll get into that in more detail. Okay, so long ago, you had something called the hub. What the hub is a device that the computer connects to with the same Ethernet cable. So a computer would connect to this device, and then another computer would connect to this device. And whatever the computer sent would have been broadcasted over the hub and sent to all other computers. Now, as you can realize, that would be a problem, because if I as a person send a message to my friend, I don't really want everybody else to hear about the message. So this was a security problem with the hub. The hub broadcasts the message to the entire network, which is not really good. And subsequent to that, they created the switch. Now, how a switch works is a switch is able to send from one computer to another computer directly through the switch, if that makes any sense. So if I send a message from myself to someone else, through the switch, they alone receive it. It isn't broadcast to the entire network. With that being said, there's certain ways of intercepting data, and I'm not going to go into that much detail now, but I'll continue to explain switch and routing. Switch and a router. Okay, so a switch is essentially a device that connects multiple computers together. A switch works on the layer 2 of the OSI model. Layer 2 is pretty much the MAC address layer. That's how I like to explain it. So what a switch understands is the MAC address. And I didn't explain what a MAC address was in the routing, so I'll probably explain it now. A MAC address is a unique address given to each network device. So a LAN card has a specific MAC address. A Wi-Fi card has a specific unique MAC address. Any device, any networking device that uses the 802.11 protocol is using a MAC address. Now, manufacturers pay to get a block of MAC addresses so that they can confirm that nobody else is using a MAC address. There are ways of spoofing MAC addresses. It's one of the easiest things to do. So while I say that these devices have a unique address, it's very easy to spoof, and that is to make a clone or a copy of a MAC address for attack purposes. So you can't actually base authentication on a MAC address. Now, coming back to what the MAC address does. The MAC address is like a lower level IP address. You could think about it that way. It has nothing to do with IP. I just like to explain it that way because it's easy to remember. So I consider the MAC address to be like a phone number. It's like, because it's unique, the switch is able to forward the packet from one computer that has a MAC address to the destination MAC address, which is another computer. And you just have to think about it like that. That's the easiest way to understand it. So most switches, especially household switches, cheap switches, sometimes in Trinidad you could buy those cheap 8-port neck switches for like $100. Those switches are layer 2 switches. They are not considered smart switches. They just do what they have to do, which is forward packets from one MAC address to the next MAC address over the switch. Now, there's another type of switch which is called the layer 3 switch. A layer 3 switch has the ability to do IP. So that is on the layer 3 of the OSI model. And the OSI model, what this allows is packets to be passed from one type of network to another type of network. And that's the same as a router. What a router does is a router works on the IP layer, which is the layer 3 layer. Did I say layer 3 layer? Okay, good. What do you understand what I mean? So the layer 3 is the IP layer. That means that packets are passed through the IP. Now, in a sense, IP is also like a phone number. It determines where a packet should go. And how is this beneficial to you? Well, basically, if you have on the IP layer, I like to explain it in terms of the internet. If you are connected from home, so your laptop is connected to a network, to your internal network that is, it has to pass through the router to get to the internet. And that is because the internet is a different type of network than your internal network. So because it's a different type of network, routing needs to be done. So the inside network has a different environment. It only allows a certain amount of computers to be within your inside environment. And then the internet is a whole different type of network. So you require the router to do basically the passing of data, to be translating over the data. And there's also something called network address translation. But I won't go into detail on network address translation right now. I'll just try to explain what routing is. So in order for your computer to be able to access the internet, it has to route through the router to your ISP. And your ISP then routes the information to the rest of the internet. And that's the difference. So a switch cannot do any routing. A switch is just for your internal network per se. The layer 3 switch can do a little bit of the routing, but a router really does the majority of routing. And you may wonder, well, what's the purpose of a router? Well, the entire internet is full of routers. Routers allow data to be passed efficiently over a network. So for example, let's put this into a layman's perspective. Let's say that I was talking to one of my friends, and my friend has a friend. So let's say that my friend has a friend who is not my friend, right? If that makes any sense. I would have to tell my friend to talk to his friend. And that's what a router does. So let's just say, let's put it into names. Richard needs to talk to Mark. Mark needs to talk to Jane. Because I don't know Jane, I have to talk to Mark. And then Mark forwards the packet to Jane because Mark knows Jane. And that's how routing works. So I hope this cleared up a little bit about switching and routing. And please subscribe to my channel.